Yeah, one of my weird favorite discoveries from the old Hollywood video days. So all those trailers were all movies by Brad Sykes, whose film Violent Streets we'll be watching tonight. A couple things I want to plug for upcoming stuff. Our next, so if you haven't been here before, there's a monthly film screening series every second Monday of the month. So our December show is also going to double as my annual Krampusnacht party, and we are going to be showing a bunch of like weird stuff. So we're highlighting the cinema of transgression from the 90s UK wave. So we're going to show 2 shorts by Richard Baylor, Circeum Delectus and Jesus Hates You. We felt that was pretty Christmas appropriate. Circeum Delectus is like the longer, the one that'll basically serve as like the main feature of the night. It's 40 minutes. It is based on the serial killers Doug Clark and Carol Bundy, the same serial killers that my movie, A Corpse for Christmas, was based on. And then we'll also be playing 2 shorts from UK cinema transgression director Damon Barr. And we're also going to be playing, I'm making this sort of like weird documentary presentation that I'm calling A Look Back on Corpses and Christmases in Philadelphia. Just kind of a little bit, it's like shorts, behind the scenes, commercials, home videos concerning my movie, Corpse of Christmas, and Philadelphia's Christmas in general. So that is next month. Also, if you haven't heard, we are starting our first Bloodstake Underground Film Festival. That will be in April, and we are taking submissions now. So we've already got a lot of really, really awesome stuff. We probably won't announce the full program until February. And so if you are into film and you like making stuff, you can submit. And if you know any cool filmmakers, please encourage them to submit. It's super cheap. It's $5 for a feature, $2 for a short. We'll be playing a lot of really weird stuff. And that's about it for upcoming stuff. So tonight is a really diverse lineup. Usually I kind of like keep things weirdly thematic, but yeah, this is you know, it's strange. So we're gonna have 2 animated shorts from local animators, and then we're gonna watch probably the strangest thing that we'll ever play in this film, Gitchy. Gitchy is a killer clown movie that is, well, it's really it's a fetish film disguised as a killer clown movie. It was shot in New Jersey back in 2009. The director, Thomas Norman, sent me a bunch of cool stuff. He sent me a bunch of DVDs and t-shirts. And the t-shirts are strange sizes that range from medium to like 4XL. And they are, if you, I want them all to leave today, and it's a pay whatever you want to take a shirt today. If this movie speaks to you in any way, please grab a shirt. And the DVDs are also really, really weird. It has the short, of course, and the way this clown kills people is he tickles people to death, and the DVD has all this raw footage of when each character dies. It's just an extended shot of them being tickled. So, if you want to see people being tickled for hours, that's okay, and then we'll be watching Violent Streets by Brad Sykes, which is a really cool black and white shot video movie. So a couple of the filmmakers are here today that I'm going to invite up. Nate and Alba, who did the opening animations, if you guys want to come up. Also, Tony Goggles did the restoration for Violent Streets. You want to come up and say anything as well? And then we'll have a Q&A with the director, Brad Sykes, at the end of the night. So yeah. So Nate Nate's shirt, A Grave Burdon, played first. Welcome, Nate. Nate Dreschel.
Yeah, I made A Grave Burdon. It's a little 2D animation that I've been working on for a couple of years. Super short, so keep this short.
Alba made our second short film.
Yeah, it's called Ondas y Desfases. It's explores perception through abstraction, a little dance-like movement through dreams. Soundtrack to Shadow, he's not here right now, but Victor Branco made the music, which I'm very thankful for. And yeah, it's just a bit of a mixed layered imagery project. So.
And a lot of it's 16 millimeter.
16 millimeter Bolex and a little bit of layered imagery using digital and 35 millimeter stop motion.
Woo! Woo! And Tony Goggles, you're the co-producer and in charge of restoration for the feature film?
Yeah, so basically I had nothing to do with the making of the movie. They made that back in the 90s in Boston. Really cool movie. I would have probably made it when I was in college, guy movie. But basically my job was to take the VHS, clean it up, get it interlaced, fix up sound, take out all the music they couldn't use anymore, put in new music. So it's basically put in new sound effects. So I was just the one who kind of made it so that they could present it nowadays, rather than with all the copyrighted music and things they had from back then, and throw in new titles and stuff like that. So that's why I did it.
The cool thing about this movie is, Brad made this in 93, 94, he said, and it basically never really came out. It had one showing over the summer at another film festival, and it's still not out on home video or Blu-ray or anything or streaming. So basically you're seeing a movie that was made 30 some years ago and no one has seen it. So
Right.
I think this is like
It's the second showing ever.
second showing ever. So I think this is like a pretty cool, weird look into obscure filmmaking. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and thanks to the filmmakers. We're also going to watch a trailer for Searching Galactus too, and then we'll get into shorts. Hey Brad.
What's that? Hey Eric, this is Eric or Brewce or?
Bruce here, yeah. All
Hey Brewce, okay, I can see you. How you doing?
Cool. Yeah, all right, we got you on the screen now too, so yeah.
Great. Right. Excellent.
Well, hey Brad, yeah, Brad Sykes, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Violent Streets, yeah, cool movie. Yeah, 93, 94, so it's one of your first films, right?
It was actually my fourth feature, believe it or not. Because I guess my first one was in 92. I did this vampire gangster movie called Bad Blood, which was reviewed in Film Threat Video Guide, if you remember that or have ever heard of that.
Sure, Film Threat.
But I did, so I did a few movies. I did a lot of shorts and some features in Virginia Beach, where I'm from. And then, Violent Streets, though, is completely different than any of those because I was in Boston in my first year of film school at Boston University. So it just has a completely different flavor and tone and everything than anything I did before or anything I did after.
All the locations were awesome. I mean, it looked super authentic for street gangs.
I shot, it's funny, it seems like we shot all over the place, but really it was within just a few mile radius, most of it just near the Boston University campus. Like right off of Commonwealth Avenue, if you know Boston, that's like one of the main streets there. And I just shot a lot in that general area, but within that I would pick out all these kind of cool things that I liked, like that building that they're up on the roof of, the bridge at the end, just all this stuff. I just kind of would pick all these little bits and pieces and then put them together and make it feel like give it some scope.
And this is, I can't think, I might be wrong here, but I can't think of another movie that you acted in, at least not this much, right? I mean,
there's a good reason for that.
You're right.
That's the case of you know that guy will be there. You know, that actor will always be there. That's why I did it, honestly. I didn't want to be in it, but, and then it created some issues. I don't know if they're issues, but there were some moments where I had to hand the camera off to other people. And thankfully, I had a few friends who are also in the movie who were good camera operators, frankly, and had a good eye. And so most of the time, you know, that worked out really well. If I had to be in the scene, then they could, you know, they could shoot it.
Do you usually DP most of your films?
I used to. I used to. I mean, the first 8 features I made, which started with Bad Blood and then ended with The Pact, which was in '95, I shot all of those. I shot and edited all of those. And then once I moved to LA, starting with Scream Queen, I've always had a DP. Although, more recently, with some of the High 8 movies, I started shooting like parts of them. Not like the main segments, but I would shoot like the wraparounds and stuff, just because I can do it and it kind of fits the nature of the project, you know? So yeah, but back then it was fun to shoot your own movies because you got exactly what you wanted in front of the camera and you didn't have to explain anything to anybody. You know, you didn't have to have those dialogues. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, handheld, the High 8 camera, you know.
How old were you when you made Violent Streets? I mean, you guys all look pretty young.
Yeah, well, 18. I mean, because I started my first year of film school, and then we started the movie at the end of '93, probably the fall, kind of going into the winter, and then we finished it early '94. Because I remember, in terms of the shooting, and then I remember I edited it, you know, before the school year was over. So I had the movie completed like the spring of '94, I would say. So we'd shoot it in bits and pieces, you know how it is, you know, we'd shoot it on weekends or just when everybody could get together, that kind of thing.
Did you have access to decent gear in film school?
Well, that's the thing, actually. I was a film student, but the way the program was set up back then was, and this was still when they were shooting film, you couldn't touch cameras, film cameras, which would be like a Bolex, like a silent, you know, a 16mm film, until your 3rd year. And I was like, screw that. I mean, no way am I gonna like wait till two years here in Boston to touch a film camera or touch a camera. So the movie was shot with my own camera. You know, it was my own thing, my own lights. As you can tell, we didn't have a lot of lights to work with. But the editing, I edited the movie. It was the first movie I edited in post, meaning like I didn't edit in camera. Because before that was like big chunks that you would edit together with 2 VCRs. This was the first one I edited in post, like with edit like 2 VHS decks and an edit controller, and it was actually in the television department, which I technically wasn't supposed to be there. And there was another student, a guy from LA, incidentally, probably the first person I ever met from LA, who showed me how to use those decks. So the school, I was using the school's equipment, but they didn't know I was there. They didn't want me to be there. They still don't like this movie. They still don't want to acknowledge the existence of this movie to this day. So the equipment was, it was pretty basic and minimal, for me, the technical end, it was really nice to cut the movie normally, to cut it like really in post. And that's why the movie probably has so many like flash cuts and forwards and all this stuff, because you could do all this stuff in post. You know, you couldn't do that editing in camera. It would be that just wouldn't work.
Sure. So, and then I'd say your first like bigger break was like Camp Blood, right? How much later from this did you do that? If you guys don't know, Camp Blood spawned what, like 12 sequels?
And
There's
counting.
a sequel that just came out.
I've lost track. But yeah, no, it was about 5 years after this, not that long. And you see the clown mask from Camp Blood, it's actually in Violent Streets. In fact, that's where the mask came from. I mean, I had the mask for Violent Streets just for that couple of scenes, and I kept it. Don't ask me why I kept it. all those years. It migrated west with me and ended up out here, and then we made Camp Blood in '99, and I had the mask left over from Violent Streets, and I'm like, that would be a great killer's mask, you know? But in Violent Streets, it's not used for that. It's just used for that one scene. So, you know, that's the Camp Blood connection. That's how you can tell it's the same guy who made both movies.
And then, so I guess after that, you know, in LA, you started doing all these films that ended up coming out through Brain Damage Films and Sterling. Did you know those guys before you were filmmakers, or how did that set up?
Well, I met Dave first, and I met him, I was working on one of his movies, and one of his bigger films, and he was making those little, he was making little movies on the side, and I remember just talking to him, as you do on sets, and I said, I've directed a few things, and he said, let me see one of them, and I showed him The Pact, because The Pact was kind of my calling card for a while. That was like the last SOV movie I made in Virginia, and it was fairly well put together, So I showed him that, and then he after seeing that, he offered me, basically, said, what have you got, kind of concept-wise, and I pitched him a few things, and Scream Queen was one of the things I pitched him, so we made Scream Queen, and I got Linnea Quigley through a friend, some of the director friends that I knew and had worked with, like Jeff Burr and people like that. And then Brain Damage, I guess they distributed, before they were Brain Damage, it was a company called, Maximini, no, it wasn't Maximini, Dead Alive. That's what they're called, Dead Alive, but their parent company, Spectrum Films, that's what it was called, that was the parent, and they distributed Camp Blood, and it did well for them and for everybody pretty much but me. Made a lot of money overseas, and that's kind of how I got in with them. And then Brain Damage was sort of an offshoot of that. It was essentially a guy who worked for them who started his own company. So then I did do it, and I did a lot of things for them. I did had movies distributed by them, and then we made movies like that we literally developed with them, like Death Factory and Goth, and so I kind of met them over time.
Personal favorite of yours, still.
I'm glad you like it. That movie. I'm glad. No, you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
It's kind of gained popularity or cult, standing over the years. When it came out, it seemed like nobody liked it. Fangoria hated it. Rue Morgue hated it. It seemed like everyone hated this movie, and I always believed in it. And I'm glad that now, it's 20 years later, but I'm glad that now, I keep hearing from people who really enjoyed it and think it's cool, and they got what we were trying to do. I'm glad.
See, I found that at a Hollywood Video, and I feel like back then, in those days, there was no social media, no letterbox, so it's kind of hard to get people's reactions outside of magazines and stuff.
That's right. Those were the only things, and IMDb was kind of in its infancy still, and absolutely. And no, but it was in Hollywood Video, yeah, for sure. That was, like, Hollywood Video was a great chain for indies. That was kind of the Tubi of its day, It was kind of the, place where all the indie and all the B movies and all this stuff could find a home and actually get in front of people. Frankly, it was better than Tubi because your movie was on the shelf next to a Warner Brothers movie or whatever, so it made more impressions that way.
And you're still at it. You're still making films fairly regularly. I heard more recently you're shooting in Transylvania. Is that process that's still shooting, or is that in post now?
It's in post now. In fact, the gentleman who's editing that movie is in the theater with you right now.
Tony back there.
Run! I'll get you the cut, I promise!
He's hiding somewhere.
I'm trying! I love golf. I told you I'd send it to you. Give me a break.
You're done.
I love you. By the way, just saying, I love you.
You're off the picture, Tony.
Come on! You had to bring up that movie, didn't you? You didn't know it was here. I'm supposed to be working. God damn it! That's why I hate Philadelphia, man. Going back to Jersey.
He's got his laptop in the corner. But I
Yeah.
So,
Yo, Brad, no, seriously, wait till I tell you what happened tonight. I went,
We'll message
I'll
you in the
text you
car.
later.
You can get closer to the computer.
I think we'll be discussing, this will be a subject for further discussion tomorrow.
Probably.
Another question. One of my favorite regular actors of yours, Joe Haggerty. How did you link up with him? He seems in like a ton of your stuff. I love his like bizarre acting style.
Joe. Yeah, Joe, you know, I still see him around the neighborhood. I mean, he lives like one street over from me, so it's kind of hard to avoid him. No, he's a good guy. I mean, yeah, he is one of the first people I met when we did Evil Sister 2, which was my second movie I did out here, and Joe ended up playing the father in that, and that was a pretty demanding role. And so then, you know, he did become kind of one of my stock players for a while on Camp Blood. We had fun with him on Camp Blood. I mean, that was like his over the top, you know, that I thought that fit the role. We were all actually cracking up when we were filming that because we were just, you know, I don't know if he thought it was funny or not, but we did. But he was fun. Yeah, he's always fun to wear. I've probably done like, I don't know, 7 or 8 movies with him, something like that.
Any questions from you guys?
I got one.
I don't know if you can see it over there.
Get on that camera.
I'll try to get
I can see.
There you go.
Hey Brad.
Hey,
So
thanks for coming.
I just wanted to know, there's certain scenes, you know, where there's like people in the background, but for the most part, when it's like just like the gang hanging outside, there's like nobody. So do you guys film on like Sunday mornings, or was Boston just like a ghost town in the early 90s?
I'll tell you something, because I was just in Boston a few months ago. In fact, part of what I was doing there was kind of a comparison video, you know, then and now, location visit kind of thing. There's definitely a lot more people in Boston than there were when I was there 30 years ago. There's way more students, there's way more everybody. It's always been a big student town, there's all these colleges around. But there were a lot of people on the streets back then. I just really didn't want them in my movie. I really wanted to create, what I was trying to do with Violent Streets is create a world, it's not a Boston movie, it's just, it's its own world. And so to that end, I tried to exclude signage, anything really contemporary except for the Street Fighter video game, of course. Just to kind of keep people out of it. I didn't want a lot of extras. I didn't want a lot of like passerby or people in the background. But I will tell you though, like, I mean, there were less people there then. And that's why we were able to get away with some of that stuff, like going up on that building on the roof and smashing the windows and doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, no way could you do that kind of stuff now in Boston, you know, because I went to those exact spots to see how the lay of the land is now. And it's very different. So I was trying to create a world there, and that's why it's like that. But I'm kind of amazed too, like the parking garage, where they have the big fight at the beginning and then they have the big fight at the end. We went in that parking garage, and it looks the same, the big fan and the glass bricks, everything. But there's cars everywhere, there's construction going on, there's all kinds of noise. You couldn't film that now. But we were in there for hours filming fight scenes with guys kicking each other's butts and, you know, fake blood and guns and everything, and we just did it. And you know what, I'll tell you one more thing. I never had any kind of interference from the cops or anything the whole time we made this movie, which is crazy. Because in Virginia Beach, they love to call the cops on you there for every little thing. And in Boston, maybe the police had better things to do, you know?
Yeah,
But we just didn't have that. That didn't happen.
It almost feels like a Cyborg sequel at times. Just 'cause
It's funny you say that, because I'm a huge Albert Pune fan.
Yeah.
And back then I was only more into Pune, like Radioactive Dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And Cyborg I'd seen, and maybe had seen a couple other things. I became a much bigger fan later on. What I realized when we were putting this movie together, when Tony was doing the restoration job and putting the music in, I was like, this feels kind of like an Albert Pune film. Like, it's almost like it has that stylized kind of, you know, stylized incoherence that you find from Albert Pune sometimes, with sort of, you know, music is sort of ladled over things, and it's anyway, but it's funny you'd say that, because I wasn't thinking of that particularly, but now I look at it and go, yeah, it's kind of,
Yeah, it's not
It might be-
it's not post-apocalyptic, but you know, it's almost feels post-apocalyptic.
it's definitely dystopian. I mean, like it's almost like, I didn't even know that term back then. I mean, I just knew that I wanted everything to be as black and white as possible, because I knew the movie was gonna be black and white, and I wanted as much steel and concrete and broken glass as we could get. I didn't want to ever see nature except in those color scenes.
Any other questions? Yeah, yes, Dave.
You mentioned Albert.
Step up in the hot seat.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned Albert Pune. What are some of your other influences for Violent Streets? I got a kind of a French New Wave vibe. I don't know if it was just a black and white, but.
Well, I'll tell you what my influences were back then. They they weren't Albert Pune actually. What the influences were there's a movie called Rumblefish.
Oh, yeah.
Francis Coppola did. I was a huge fan of it back then, and I think I probably recently discovered it back then. Huge fan of that, and then Streets of Fire. Those were my two key movies that I was thinking of with Violent Streets. The black and white is literally from Rumblefish. I wanted to, after seeing that movie, I wanted to make a stylized black and white movie too. And probably the gang violence in Rumblefish was obviously a factor, and then the color, you know, Rumblefish has these shots where there's certain shots where the fish are in color or things like that, but the rest of it's black and white. That's where that came from. It's funny you'd say French New Wave. I mean, like, I remember seeing Breathless for the first time while we were probably in production on this, and I loved it. But I hadn't really seen a lot of movies like that back then. You know, it was really, those two I just mentioned were the two big influences. You know, and of course nobody who else was making the movie had any idea what these movies were. I would introduce myself and say, "Hi, I'm Brad. Have you ever seen Rumblefish?" That was literally what I would do back then. And nobody knew what that was, but they went along and made the movie with me anyway, thankfully.
Yeah.
So those are my two big.
I think part of it's also the playfulness, and like when Archer's given that kind of tirade, it just like fast forwards through all of it.
Oh, that's kind of well, yeah, you know, those scenes are like what make it more of a 90s movie, I think. And I just did that because I felt like I'm just gonna do what the other character's thinking, which is I'm not gonna listen to any of this. You know, this is just a bunch of gibberish, this guy's talking. I'm just gonna fast forward through it mentally. And so I just put that in the movie. Which sort of, you know, it's sort of like what you do, sometimes when you're younger, you just throw things in that you think are cool at the time. Even if they might not match the overall vibe of the movie, it's just what works at the moment, you know. I was wondering if everybody like understood what was going on in this movie, because there's all these flashbacks that are, you know, throughout the film that I don't know how I would handle it now, but I think it's sometimes a little hard to follow. But hopefully you guys are able to follow it
I'd say
more or
there's
less.
definitely enough that you can kind of.
Okay.
50-50.
Good.
You gotta use your head, but I think you can follow. And I like they start off in conflict, and then you go back and you see they're good friends, and it just kind of takes.
Right. Well, I think it would be boring to lay it all out end to end.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like it wouldn't be as, frankly, interesting of a movie. You wouldn't make certain points if you laid it out end to end. At least that's how I felt back then. You know, probably feel the same way now. But yeah, I wish there was some way of making more clear to people that you're going into a flashback, because I don't make that clear at all. It just sort of happens. But I don't know, man. You know, we're talking about 93, Reservoir Dogs had just come out. You know, I think Pulp Fiction came out while we were, actually, well, no, it was a little bit after this movie. So, you know, I think people were getting used to that non-conventional, going back to French New Wave again, obviously, that non-conventional kind of structures. I don't know. And, you know, if you don't do it when you're younger, then how are you gonna do that, you know?
Anybody else?
Get in the hot seat.
Well, thanks for joining us, Brad. Thanks for Violent Streets. We really enjoyed looking back on it. Yeah, 30, you know, what, a little over 30 years old now.
We'll just call it 30. It's it's a little over 30, but I'll just, you know, I really appreciate you, you know, thank you for screening it. Thank you everyone who came to this. I mean, it's a weird little movie, so thank you for coming out on Monday night to see it. You know, I hope everybody got something out of it and, you know, saw something different. It's a different kind of SOV movie, you know?
Definitely.
So,
Thanks, man. Yeah, and we're looking forward to your next picture.
hey, you'll be coming soon,
Sounds great.
All right, guys.
Yeah.